Looks like we're good to go now. Good morning, and welcome how to effectively work with a FileMaker partner. I see you guys all survived last night. We're able to go to the party, the after party, the after party, and then still get here. My name's John Taylor. I'm currently a senior officer with the Los Angeles School Police Department and a senior developer for their systems. Everybody goes, oh, you work for LAPD. No, we're not LAPD. We're actually the 5th largest agency in the Los Angeles County area, and we're the #1 school police department in the nation in terms of size and such. So it's just where we get our paycheck from, just like any other agency. We have patrol, campus-based officers, we have a TAC team, K-9, detectives, etc. A little bit about me, where I came from. I could have put my picture up there, but nobody wants to see that, but it gives you a better idea of kind of my background. Right out of high school, went in the Marine Corps, was in there for a little while, came out. I was already an EMT, so I rolled right into being a paramedic, went to paramedic school, and was doing that for a couple years for a 911 first-in provider ambulance company. Started applying to all the fire departments, police departments, trying to get a job. Ended up getting picked up by the school police department and work in law enforcement. I'm doing that now for just over 20 years. With that, inside that year, we covered many assignments. I covered many assignments from East LA all the way to the Pacific Palisades, if you're familiar with the LA area. I've worked specialized assignments to include our tactical team, which I'm still an element leader on, as well as a senior firearms instructor. So you kind of see where that all plays out there. So how did I get here? How did I get to develop? Well, the supervisor over the technology unit liked me. He said that, hey, he reminds me of him when he was younger, because I had no intention of coming into this field. I was a police officer. That's what I did, you know. So I get called in to do a week-long project, just like any other in-house developer, right? Hey, will you come on in? Will you do this for me? I had worked on evaluations of systems before, wrote no BS reports on it, so we either did it or we didn't, based on those recommendations. Get called in. He goes, hey, good job on your 1-week project. He slides the transfer request over the table. He goes, if you see the transfer request, it has your name on it, has your current supervisor's name on it, that says that he's releasing you, has my name on it as receiving you. Oh, and by the way, there's the chief's signature, so whether you like it or not, you're coming to the unit. So roger that. Guys in the military understand, hey, you're standing in front of the desk, take a step back, aye, sir, about face, carry on with the mission, right? And we move forward. So went to the desk, find out what I had. What does it look like? What did I just get myself into? So I started looking through it, and I go, okay, we got to do something better, because it's just not going to work for us, all right? This is what I walked into. FileMaker version 8, no relationships, a list of field and field names. Congratulations, there you go. That's your FileMaker. That's what was deployed. Single table flat files. You might as well use an Excel. They would have had a better job. Okay, and you wonder why they were upset with what they had. So the administration, the higher ups, chief, deputy chief, they're like, this stuff isn't working for us. I was like, no kidding. They wanted to scrap it. They go, look at this and look at all these out-of-the-box solutions. Well, the problem is, you get out-of-the-box solution to solve problem A, out-of-the-box solution to solve problem B, C, D. Now you've got 4 solutions that aren't talking to each other. You've got to put everybody's name into it, because at the time there was no connections for those as well. And we're right back to where we started, nothing talking to each other. They wanted stuff that could talk. So what did I do? Well, figure I got FileMaker. What is this thing? Grabbed a book, grabbed the internet, start researching. How do I fix it? Self-taught. There wasn't, that I knew of, any schools. I didn't know about DevCon at the time. Did my own research, started doing my own development, and I threw together a proof of concept. And admin was impressed. They're like, good to go. Do a full rollout. Okay, what does that mean? This is everything we want. Now get it done. Okay. Luckily, as an in-house and being in law enforcement for so long, I knew all the processes. I knew the workflow. I knew what needed to get done. But now I need to know how to do it on the back end. So I do a couple more solutions, roll that out. By that time, took a class, took another class, ended up finding DevCon and getting a history and background on FileMaker on what to do. I sit down during the week at DevCon, roll out another solution, and now everybody sees what's going on. Everybody wants something, right? And when do they want it? Yesterday. How do they want it? Oh, perfect. We want every functionality right now. Why can't you produce it? Well, my team consisted of 3 people. Can anybody guess what 3 people that would be? Me, myself, and I. Okay, don't mind me, I'm just talking to myself here, you know. So what do you think? I don't know. Because nobody really wanted to give us input. We tried to get teams together, you know, a bunch of cops. They don't care. And back then, it's older guys that weren't technologically savvy, per se. And, you know, their idea of technology was the Nokia phone. And there you go. So I've got to look at, who do I bring in? Do I try to solicit or bring in an in-house guy, another in-house guy? Well, they're going to be just as lost in the beginning as me, so I got to train them up, right? Are they willing to do it? Because that means being pulled kind of out of the field. Why did they join? Well, they wanted to join because they wanted to take people to jail, make a difference out in the community, things like that. So it's going to be hard finding somebody. But at least, hey, they know the mission, right? They know the agency, they know the workflow, they know, hey, this is how it needs to get done because this is how I would want it to be in the field. This is the solution I need to make it work for me while I'm in the car and doing my thing. So we put it out there, 0, no interest. Okay, I could work with that. So we start looking at professional partnerships, and that's what we're talking about. How many people are in-house developers here? Quite a bit, because what, all the FBA guys are all having a party next door. And how many do we have that are actual professional developers that do it for a regular living? So I'm mainly basing this on looking at it from my perspective as an in-house, but I'll also kind of give you guys a little bit on the professional side. You guys may not like what I have to say, but we'll see. Okay, because it's definitely a thing that you've got to tread lightly on, and you've got to develop those relationships when you're working with people, okay? And you've got to do some things to get things done. So we looked for a professional partner. We looked at our budget. We looked at, are they going to understand what we do? And because of the systems that we're building, we've got to look at security. Okay, and I'm not just talking security in the terms of locking down your server, locking down your files, because you're doing that for everybody on the outside, right? But once you bring that professional in, now they have access to most, or if not all, of your systems. So who are you getting there? And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as well, and what we do on our end to ensure that we get the best quality. So the first thing I did is start doing my homework. Like I said, I had a little bit of background in FileMaker now, got to know a couple people. Some guys hunted me out at my first DevCon and said, hey, you're with the police department, so are we. Hey, I heard you guys were here. So we built a relationship there. We see each other every year now. And we talk and exchange ideas and such, what's going on, because it's similar work. But there again, it's not an outside company that can help me on a regular basis that I need to be able to call on. So I started looking at know your company. Hey, are these guys just some fly-by-night, one-person deal that just started up a year ago? Or have these guys been around for 25, 30 years that are going to be around to maintain those systems? Are they going to be able to help me because are they going to have the knowledge to do the work that I need done? So we looked at it and we go, okay, for us, when we send out our RFP, which is a request for purchase, you have to be a FBA member. That's just one of our stipulations. And that's because they're kind of vetted by FileMaker. They've been around for a while. They've proven themselves. And we can kind of trust them just based on that versus that small business partner. What's their work history like? Research on the internet. I mean, you can Google a company right now and go on Yelp and you'll find out what people think. Okay? Are they reputable? Do they have any references? Can you go contact people that maybe they've worked for? What kind of finished products do they produce? These are all things to consider before bringing somebody in. Because how else are you going to effectively work with them? If you don't know them, right? Just like the slide there, I don't know who you are, I don't know your company, but hey, why don't you come and work with us? You've got to have that relationship building. Security-wise, and like I said, we will talk about this kind of in depth with what we did. Because of the systems we do, because of our PRA requests, because of the way the system is developed, the information going in there, not only law enforcement information, addresses, phone numbers, date of births, but also what? The public's information. Say again? Arrest records, exactly. Everybody's information has to be secure. So, A, they get assigned what? Non-disclosure. You can't talk about what you're doing here. So every time we bring somebody in, and these are just things that we do, okay? You don't have to do that, but it's just something to think about when you're building that relationship. Are they willing to do that? Some companies may not be. You're dealing with sensitive material. We conduct a full background on these guys coming in. Anybody that touches our system gets a full background. They have to fill out a background questionnaire. We send it over. We do a criminal. We do checks, okay, to make sure that these guys are who they say they are. They don't have a criminal background and associate with known gang members, so now all of a sudden all of our police officer information is out on the internet. Okay, that's a huge safety issue. Huge safety issue if you were a victim and now this guy's selling your information to the suspect that you had dealings with. What were our needs? Number of developers. Look at your projects that you need to get done. There again, do you have just one individual that's working this company, or do they have those resources? We set a specific number of developers that they need to have on hand. And that's because we may offload multiple projects to them. Knowledge and experience for the developers. Everybody has a different knowledge base. Everybody's good in something. Okay? They have their expertise in HTML, they have their expertise in SQL, etc. They all need to be obviously what? FileMaker certified, right? That's one of our criteria. But also, can we pull those resources that are available to us if we need to? Because we're leveraging all of those technologies. Because if all of a sudden we get knee deep into a project and all of a sudden they can't provide for us, what good is it? How effective have we been? Don't waste my time and I won't waste yours. As you can see by my beginning slide, you probably realize my personality. I always tell them, hey, if you can get along with me, you can probably get along with anybody, right? I'm not going to BS around. I'm not going to waste your time. Because as an in-house, you get your salary, right? So really, your projects are set by your supervisor. Yeah, I got it. I'll get around to it. Well, why didn't you get around to it? Well, because you had me doing all this other stuff. So they understand that. They're paying your salary anyways, right? But they're still getting use out of you. But now all of a sudden, you're going outside. So now it's just like hiring those high-priced lawyers and such. You're paying an hourly rate for these guys, right? So be prepared. Know your goals and objectives. What projects do I want them to work on? What do I want to occur? When do I want it to happen? Know your workflow. Don't go walking into a meeting and go, well, I want you to build this application. And then what are they going to do? Well, how do you get there? How do you get to that finished product? I don't know. But you should know. You just figure it out. They're going to spend, what, days trying to figure that out. Walk into that meeting being prepared, knowing that workflow, saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. This is how it works. Be prepared to present your ideas. So this is what I think. Because half of it, as in-house guys, you're always sitting there thinking, what? Well, how can I do this? How can I do this? How can I do this? I know the workflow, but I need to imagine this, and that's half the battle. I tell my guys, hey, you want this application, you want this form to be printed out, here's a blank piece of paper, because I know they don't have computer skills. Draw what you want. Put the boxes on there, label the boxes, and now I can go from there, because that's half my time. I don't know what you want. So get that done, because now you're not wasting time. You can build your relationships there. Have a plan of action, be prepared to execute your plan, and stay flexible, because things are going to change. Things will change when you get knee-deep into that project. So you can't just be rigid to what you guys first discussed. Trust me, especially on a large project. We've changed several times during a large project. And it's not so much that the workflow changed, it's just we realized it's just not going to work with what we have. So you got to be able to communicate that to that developer. Don't just talk, walk them through it. Don't just give simple, nondescript briefings. Like I said, don't walk in there and go, okay, I need an app that does employee management. Because what are they going to build you? Probably something that business world does for HR, whereas the police department is different. I need to know assignments. I need to know what car they're going to be in. I need to know what all their previous assignments are. I need to know when they got promoted, when they got demoted. I need to know if they have all this other stuff behind it. So they got to know that. Walk them through it. Take them out for a ride along. You know, that's what we did. You know, hey, kind of drive them around, say, hey, this is what we got. Introduce them to a couple people. Introduce them to the people that are stakeholders in that particular application. Things like that. That way they have a clear understanding of what's going on. That builds that communication so you can effectively work with them. If you don't effectively work with them, everything's going to, what? Crash and burn. We don't want that to occur. Because what? Time is money. Money's time. They should, what? Embrace with passion. If you get a hold of somebody and they just go, okay, yeah. Do they really understand what's going on? How do we confirm that? Well, hey, developer, walk me through my process now. Make sure that we understand and we're on the same page. Okay? I got a really good story here with this one. Is we were working on a project for one of our systems. The developer, we're about halfway through the project. The next meeting, because we have a weekly meeting, calls me up. We're talking on the phone. He goes, you'll never guess what happened. I'm like, what? He goes, I had to call 911. I'm like, okay. It's like, what's the deal? He goes, but as I was talking to that individual, I was envisioning that person typing into my system that we were working on. I know he got it. He understands it, right? Because he's visualizing it. He embraces what he's doing and he's passionate about it because now he's going to put his heart into it and he's going to make it good versus it just sitting there. Assign the work. What can I do? You may be so overwhelmed, that's why you're offloading a particular project, right? But what can I do to help you? What information do you need? Tell me. I will get you that information. We'll sit down, we'll discuss it, whatever it is, and we'll work through it. Or, hey, let's put it up on the server. I'll give you a VPN access. We'll work through it together because we actually have a testing server that you can't get live data on, and we'll collaborate there once it's offloaded. And what are you going to do? So, priority of work. Okay, here are the tasks. Here's the priorities. This is what we're going to do. We have some large but small details. You got to understand the verbiage. Is what you are sending the same as being received? In-house guys, remember where you started. And this goes back to developers professionally as well. Remember where you started from. In-house developers, how much training do you actually have? Good training. Can you tell me the difference between a table, an attribute, and an object? A portal. Because you got to be able to describe these things. You just can't say, put one of those widgets on the layout with those line thingies. Well, did you mean a portal or a list view? Because you're going to get what you get. So be specific. So you need to know what's going on. Okay? What you say is not always what you mean. With that, we were developing on another project with another developer. The developer goes, okay, hey, I understand, I got what's going on. He goes, this, and this. We're using the same words. We're calling it a wizard. We're calling it a widget. We're calling it this. Great. Yep. Is that what I see? Yeah, that's what I see. Okay. Send them off. Priority work. Hey, get it done for the next week. Roger that. Goes off. We get back on the meeting. Comes up on the screen. It's like, what? That ain't what I thought. Not even close. All right. Was it his fault? No. Was it my fault? No. We'll add a third person in there. We had a project manager on it that was on the same call. Was it her fault? No. Why? Well, even though we went through in a little round robin, we were all using the same words, we all had a different vision of what had actually occurred. Okay? And so we can't blame all one person, but we were all on the same different page. Right? It was on the same page, but different. Totally different ideas, but we're using the same stuff. So is it a big deal? In-house guys, what do you think? What would you do? Absolutely. Be understood. So let's correct it, right? Let's draw out what we did. Let's figure out and get everybody on the same page, because what the developer saw was different, what I saw was different, and what the project manager thought was totally different as well. In-house guys, this is building a relationship with those developers as well. Okay? Was I upset? No. I couldn't get upset, right? Am I going to go run into the boss? Absolutely not. I don't care what the boss thinks. Why? I'm paying his salary, right? As an in-house guy, think about that. And that's where you guys are like, ooh, what? I'm paying a salary to get a job done. I'm paying you. So if I want my wall painted pink and I come home and a contractor paints it blue, I'd be like, excuse me? No. I wanted it pink. Yeah, but I don't like pink. I don't care. I pay you to paint it blue. So that's what you're going to do. So yeah, that's part of it. It's part of working effectively with them, because you're not going to run to the boss and say, excuse me, your developer sucks. Right? Basically. No. That's not appropriate. And in fact, I didn't. And you build that relationship with that as well. Okay? Because I actually had a meeting with the boss, I think probably about a week and a half later. We were standing outside the station talking about something else. He's getting ready to leave. He goes, anything else you want to tell me? Nope. He looks at me, he goes, are you sure? There's nothing else you need to tell me? No, why? And he was like, well, I heard that something may have occurred. I go, okay, mildly interesting. Something did. We took care of it, we move on. He goes, okay, I just want to make sure you're not mad. I go, no, I'm not angry. And that builds that relationship now with that developer as well, because I'm old school. You take care of things between people, right? You don't need to go running off like to mommy, mommy, mommy. Look at what my brother did. No, that ain't me. Yeah, we had actually sketched stuff out before and actually had a 4-day development or discovery time, but it was something new that we realized that needed to get done, and it's just something we kind of discussed over the phone, so we revamped that. So now what we do is, no matter what, if it's something new that we're going to institute, we'll go ahead and do it. It was a mistake on everybody's part. We realize it, things happen, we just move on. So that's why you got to be on the same page, because if you're not going to effectively work, and then that draws out your project, okay? Make sure that you ensure that the work can be done, not only by the developer, but also by FileMaker. If you get somebody that says, well, okay, hold on. Let's get somebody that can, because it's not going to be effective. Your project's not going to be effective. Establish what? Frequent and ongoing meetings. We usually have, depending on the project, a minimum once a week, sometimes twice at the beginning. Don't be intimidated, okay? If you don't know, you don't know. Ask what? Clarification. Learn the techniques, language, etc., because that's what we already talked about. Another developer, as you can see, we have multiple projects, and that's why we have to go with such a large company. Another developer comes up, says, I got a fix for you. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put a Node.js on there. It's going to communicate with the local client, and then your server is going to have communication with that as well, so you can push the information out. I go, a Node what? You're going to do what to where? So what did I do? Hold on a second. I'll get back to you in a day. Barnes & Noble, book, Node.js. Find out all about it, okay? And that's, as an in-house guy, you should know that, okay? You should know what they're doing to your systems. Be spun up on what they're doing, how they're doing it. Because if not, you're not going to know what's happening. And if it crashes, you're ultimately responsible. Not only are you going to be responsible for that crash of data, because they're not going to blame the other guy. Your company's going to blame what? You. You've got to be able to fix it. But eventually, those guys may go away. Your budget goes away. I know I have public funds. I don't have an unlimited budget. I have to spend certain things certain ways. So I now may be responsible for those updates, those modifications that people want within my system that somebody else created. So I've got to be aware of what's going on, and I've got to be able to work with them. This is your project. Get what you want. Design what you want, how you want it to be, colors, objects, everything. This is you. And then convey that to them. Just remember these three things, if you take nothing else away from here today. Establish that working relationship, okay? I'm not saying you have to go to the bar with these guys, right? But have that working professional relationship that you can go and talk to them. You can have open dialogue. They're engaged and they're talking. Listen as well as speak. And I know I can talk a lot, and I can keep talking, but I've got to remember to listen as well. Hey, just tell me to shut up. Tell me, hey, my idea sucks. Tell me, hey, that's not going to work, because I'm up for it, okay? Because there's an exchange of ideas. Because we brought in another guy and kind of shocked him. He was actually an intern. He kind of messed a few things up. Didn't realize I actually knew FileMaker, and I just took over the screen. And he was like, what happened? But now the roles were reversed. He's got to listen because I did my listening. Now he's going to listen. And then work within the parameters of your project. You can't overtax these guys. You overtax them, boom, you're automatically going to run into what? Time frame issues, budget issues, all of that. So keep that within your scope of work that you've already pre-done in the beginning. You've set this way before these guys have come in. Session updates, I won't be posting anything new that's already there. And please fill out the evaluation. This session is actually switching over. It's a half hour. Dion is going to come up and present now her keynote here.
So to start with, I appreciate everything that John did say. I am going to go a little bit different route, which is exciting because we did not talk beforehand. So there was a little bit of concern that maybe we'll say the same thing, and I thought, well, okay, that works out because then it must be the really important stuff. But I find it interesting that we both had the same topic and came up with slightly different approaches to it. I also appreciate that. So who am I? I am a mom and a wife, been married almost 27 years, And my daughter's going to be just turned 21. I really do know this information. And my son will be 20 next year, or next month. Boy, he'll appreciate that if I just keep delaying it, won't he? I am also an employee. I work at Cook Medical. We're a large medical device company in Bloomington, Indiana. And I started 9 years ago at Cook Medical as a temporary employee. And that's when I was introduced to FileMaker Pro. At first, I did data entry only on the databases that were tracking our assets that were completed by the marketing department. We were responsible for working with our business units, the print vendors, and to retrieve the design files for redesign and use. At first, I worked with 6 individual databases, separate databases, not talking to each other. I would copy and paste or just retype the same information into each database. Shortly after I was hired, I learned that all of these databases were in FileMaker Pro, and I was given access to lynda.com. So this is when my introduction to FileMaker Pro developing was started. It was supposed to be more of a maintenance role, update a list, or add maybe one field or two. And as I dabbled and learned a little bit more, I started to update the databases, giving them more functionality. I combined a couple of the databases into one, and I provided some basic reporting. Already, I was saving myself a bunch of time, and I love the challenge of finding another way to make my data entry much quicker and more accurate. In 2013, we knew that we needed to redesign and rebuild our databases. We needed much more functionality. We needed to be able to have better version control of our assets. We needed to link our assets together that were in multiple languages. We needed to provide a better way to manage the inventory of our assets. And it did not take long for me to realize I was in way over my head. As much as I enjoyed the challenge of working with the database, I did not have the skills, the vision, nor the time to work on this rebuild. At that time, my unofficial job description was fill in the blank. So I was the backup person for our in-house print room. I was the backup for our processor that worked with the print vendors. I was the special projects doer, so anything odd that somebody came up with that needed done, I figured out how to do it. The rest of my time, I was actually responsible. My day job was to take care of all the digital and the physical assets and archive them, upkeep of the projects. I was already working 10 to 15 hours overtime, and there was no way I could take on this rebuild during my day job. We reached out to FileMaker and asked for some recommendations for a developer to work with us. And with those referrals, we found a wonderful partner to work with me. In my current position, I have worked with a couple of different vendors and partners, but my working relationship with my FileMaker partner is my favorite. It also, I feel like, is the most effective. So that's why I've been given this opportunity to share with you how to effectively work with a FileMaker partner. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay, and you can be confident in the fact that you can turn over your project to a FileMaker partner. I don't want to share any excuses of why you might hold back, because we all have them. We all have things that we're a little worried about or not ready to hand over. Some of us have even some control issues and don't want to think we can hand them over. But instead, I hope that I can give you permission to allow yourself this opportunity, because that's what it is. It's an opportunity. I knew that our hopes for our database was way out of my league. I knew that I was never going to have the experience or that I could learn it fast enough to be able to build it the way we needed it. We had a dream of this being a global solution for more than one user group. We needed it to be the users to be able to complete their workload, distribute the assets, manage their files. Another group of users was going to have to manage the inventory that was on the shelves, and yet another group needed to take care of the regulations and requirements by other countries. I did not have the experience in FileMaker Pro, nor did I have the time to make this rebuild. I wanted to be able to do it, but my desire and my willingness to learn was not going to get it done, and not get it out to my users. Allowing myself the opportunity to learn from my FileMaker Pro partner has been the best schooling I could have imagined. I've learned about asking the right questions, how to determine the real need of the user. I've learned about project management. I've even learned about the database development, all while getting the database built, getting it out to the users, getting it in use, and getting it updated. So how did we do this? We communicated. Let the FileMaker Pro partner in on the details. I sometimes forget to tell Debbie all of the details. I try to protect her from the users. Every time that I have held on to any of the information, and it's never been intentional, but when I've held on to it, she's not been able to come up with exactly what we needed. But when I've shared that information, and it's usually by her prodding me, then she's come up with some awesome solutions for us. More than once, I've had to step back and explain the big picture and the vision that we have. Basically, I give Molly and Debbie a big picture of where we're going so that they can help us and direct us on what we need to make sure we keep in alignment. They also can give us some advice on what to tackle next. The information dump, we just dump it all out there, is a good way for them to get all of the pieces, all of our vision. We can let the information stew, and then we can hone it down into what is our immediate need and where are we going now. This information dump helps our FileMaker partner keep things like the fields in alignment for future additions. She knows where we plan on going and can keep that in the back of her mind as she's doing the work for us. But Debbie can only do this if I share the details. Find a communication tool so that you help with your record keeping. I am sure there are many options for this, and I know there's even a few within FileMaker that people have built from themselves. But we use Basecamp. We use this tool to document the communication between us. It gives us the history of our discussions. It's a great place to go back to so we can remember what were we thinking before and how is it different now. I also use it as a reference often when I'm talking to my users, because every once in a while they ask me, can this field do this? And I have to go back and double check. Emails are easily lost and erased, and so by using this documentation tool, it holds on to our notes, and I have found it very valuable for when we're ready to do a rollout or an update. Screenshots. Whoops. I take lots of screenshots, and then I mark them up so that Debbie knows exactly where I am and what I'm talking about and what I'm wanting her to do. First, the screenshots help me to communicate exactly where I want the work done. I have a tendency to refer to the same place in my database by multiple names. Now, to be fair to myself, it usually has a lot to do with the particular user I'm talking about, what they're trying to do, or which module we're talking about in the database. But materials management, warehouse, and inventory are all generally in the same place, and it's the same idea. But for Debbie, who even though she knows what's going on and she built this from the beginning, it can sometimes be confusing as to what I am actually talking about or what the reference is. So, through the years, I have learned that if I take the screenshot and I can put my notes on the screenshot as well as in Basecamp, I can mark up my screenshots, then Debbie will know exactly where I am talking about, and there's no reason for her to assume. As you can see, I can circle things. I draw lines and references to relationships or where the direction needs to go. I add examples into the data fields. I will add a layout or block out what I need to be removed. And when working with screenshots, I always add the notes in the Basecamp. This way, whichever one she's looking at, she has the reference. It may seem like overkill, but this is the part of the balance that I have found that works for me. We also use, I guess that's a better screen. We also use extra layouts. We have been working together long enough that Debbie has unlocked some of the layouts for me. Then I make changes to a duplicate layout so that I can be more specific. It's a lot like using the screenshots, except for when I copy the field, I can copy the layouts, change the labels, I can give better direction, and then ask her to create to create the new field. This has been helpful often when we're doing a big change, trying to work through the workflow, because I can show it to my users. I can then turn around and show it to Debbie. I can put notes in there, and I can hide my notes from the users. We've also recently used videos. We found the tool Jing, and we use that often so that we can have the user video what they're doing, and then I can write up what we were expecting it to do, and this gives her a better idea of what's going on. Details. Did I mention that it is important to share the details? What is going on in the user's life? What is the process? What is the workflow? And what are you really asking for? Often I figured out that it was really need from Debbie by writing it out. During this rant, I realized that what I really need, and then I can finish explaining the task. Sometimes I delete what I started writing because really it was only for me. But sometimes I leave it for her so she ends up with this large story problem, and then I say, okay, all of that just so I can tell you this is what I need. Or, this is what I was trying to think through, and if you have a better idea, let me know. I figured that if I needed to figure out what was going on and what we were needing, then Debbie's probably also needing that background to help me come up with the best solution. By adding the qualifier, I let her know that this may have just been a bunch of story problem that you can ignore, but here's what I need you to do. If you have more suggestions, let me know, and the details are here in case you need them. Balance. Find the balance that works for yourself and your partner. For Debbie and me, we have found that working through Basecamp is our best solution, and it works the best. I'm able to add tests and questions, whatever it is that I need, at whatever time suits me best in Indiana. While she's setting it up in Las Vegas, she can get to it when it's her time. We schedule conferences calls whenever we need them, when we're ever adding more functionality, or we're on something that I cannot get it clear in writing. But but most of the time we turn around and put it in Basecamp anyways, and that way it's still there for a reference. When we first started, we did regular conference calls. That's what we needed to start our relationship. But like I said, quickly we found that for each of us, Basecamp worked much better. No, you are probably not your FileMaker partner's only partner or client. I know that is going to be the big shocker of the day. But seriously, I appreciate all of the work that Debbie completes for me, and I appreciate that she gets to it quickly. But occasionally she sends me a heads up and says she's on a deadline with another client and she's only going to be responding to emergencies. I respect that she gives me that heads up, and I don't abuse it. I appreciate that she lets me know, and she knows that I'm going to continue to get the things out of my head and off of my plate by adding them to Basecamp, and they'll be there for her when she gets back and is ready. I try not to cry wolf, but she does respond when I call. Along with knowing that you're not the only client, try not to call emergency, unless it is an emergency. Things do break, users can't work, you need a report to sort by a different way because the FDA just walked in. That hasn't happened to me yet, but it can. So, I don't cry wolf, and she responds quickly when I do say, hey, I need this urgently. And I can appreciate that because we do respect each other. Find balance in the details that you share. I've already shared that I have a tendency to rant when I'm starting my Basecamp tickets. When I'm adding a task, okay, so I rant. I prefer to say that I am giving the details of the background. Molly calls it brainstorming, but occasionally this is okay. Normally, when it's something that I've struggled with to figure out how to approach it, or something that is sometimes it's even great to give her all of that. I make the assumption that if I've had to work through all of this when we're trying to come up with something new, that Debbie will probably need all those details at some point anyways. But I also try to do the other, and that is to just keep it simple. I give her exactly what I want. Please make the status change to archive complete when the 4 checkboxes are completed. Finding the balance between the two takes a lot of practice. So, do it. And when your partner comes back with, that's interesting, what do you want me to do? Don't take offense by it. Just know that you need a little less rant and a lot more specific. I've already mentioned that you need to share the details with your partner, but one of the things that I feel like I need to do is protect my partner from my users. Users have great ideas, but not all of them are great for the database or for other users. I have users in 6 main locations: Australia, Hong Kong, Japan, Ireland, Denmark, and the US. Sometimes, most of the time, when somebody in the US wants something, it does not work as they asked for Japan. By sorting through the user's wants, I have the opportunity to evaluate the request and how it fits into the process of what we're working on to develop. I can hold off the user's ideas until it fits into what Debbie and I are already working on. I can group it with someone else's request so that it is in similar nature. And it also gives me the opportunity to decrease the constant changes. I want this today, and I want that tomorrow. So it helps with the progress of the overall development work. Respect and flexibility. Respect your partner. Be clear with their expectations and your needs. Give the whole story so that your FileMaker partner will know what you want. No one appreciates the vague direction, I need something, or as John said, give me that widget. I troubleshoot everything that is completed and every complaint that the user has. This way, I can provide more specific examples of what is not working the way we expect, and for using videos, this has come in really handy. Or my user will video what's going on, and so that I will know what they need, and then I just write up what we're expecting. This provides the details and expectations. At the same time, be flexible. Allow yourself to hear suggestions from your FileMaker partner. You may have an idea in your head, but allow yourself to hear those suggestions from your FileMaker partner. I'm sure you will be blown away with what they come up with for you. Respect. Do not change the work that has been done. Changes are inevitable, but you do not want to go in and change the work that your FileMaker partner has done, especially when you are first starting out. Do not change their scripts. Do not change their layouts, because you will mess up something that you didn't know was there. If you think you want something different, explain what you want and just be clear about it. You hired an expert to help you. Stay out of the work they have done. Ask for the changes. Be flexible enough to allow your partner to lock you out of your database. It is for your own protection. If you have done any developing yourself, or you are just learning, you will be so tempted to tweak it. To just help them so that you don't have to add something else to their plate. Or you think you might save your budget a little bit if you do it yourself. But most likely, that will end up with being rework that they have to fix anyways, so stay out. At first, I was locked out of tables, fields, layouts, scripting, security, probably even more. Over time, Debbie has unlocked the layouts, some of the layouts with a lot of buttons and hidden items or script triggers and things. I don't even touch those. I don't even duplicate those. I still don't make very many changes, but as I said earlier, copying fields, changing labels so that I can give her direction, that has worked out well. And I definitely don't look at or don't change any of her scripts. Now I do peek at them. We have paid her to do a lot of work, and I don't want to be responsible for making her do any rework and blowing my budget just on my errors. Respect. You have hired an expert. If you only need their hours of development per your exact instructions, then just be clear about that and let them know. But I'm guessing that you will want to be flexible enough to allow your FileMaker partner to share their talent. I'm guessing that most of the time you will want the benefit of their experience in table setups, database speed, layouts, and user experience. Take advantage of this opportunity. As far as our rebuild, not only does our database do everything we want that we were dreaming of at the beginning, but it has grown to be even more. We have rolled it out globally. We have parts of it in Japanese as well as English. We have multiple departments using the database to communicate, and instructions are handled throughout the database instead of emails that were easily lost or ignored. We are now providing reporting and stats so that the business units can make decisions for future. I hope I have encouraged you to be confident and allow yourself an opportunity. Allow your FileMaker partner to enhance your database with their creativity and experience, to decrease your workload by managing your project and not your FileMaker partner. You can take advantage of the extra help without totally blowing your budget, and allow your FileMaker partner to teach you a few new skills. Thank you.